All right, let me capture your attention here, and we'll get going today. The plan for today is to start off just with some review, talking about the chapters we've covered already and what this course is about as part of the comm theories program. And from there we're going to go into the speech codes theory. So we'll get into some examples of that. We'll work on some examples in class. That then we'll break. Then we'll come back and do cultural studies with Stuart Hall. And so that's the plan for today. You need to be very careful about attendance in this class in comm studies, because this is a once-a-week class. And so if you're out, you get 1, and then you get 2, and then it starts to affect your grade. And getting in, late or leaving early is an absence. So you need to be here, just to keep that straight.
You get 1 or 2 absences.
Well, you get. I'll have to look at it. But yeah. But it's not too many, especially because of once-a-week class, right? Usually, I think it's 2 weeks worth of classes. But I have to look at it again.
The way it is in like most classes, the twice a week is if you miss 3, and
right.
The 4th is like
starts to count. Yeah. See, that doesn't work for us because that's 1.5 weeks. Yeah. So I'll look at it again, but you need to make sure you're here because it is only once a week that we do this. Let me check. Do you have any questions for me?
I came up with a couple of journal articles, but I'm not quite sure what I should do with them. Do I write a report on the article, or?
The journal articles, I'm not ready to go into what we do with them right now. But yeah, don't do anything with it yet. Yeah, but just start getting it together. Right.
Do you send grades back on the weekly?
Yes,
emails?
I've sent everyone I've gotten. I've sent back so far. So.
Okay.
So.
I can speak up about it.
Yeah. So I'm not showing any yet. So we got to figure out where they're going. Email them.
Report on a 1 to 5 basis?
1 to 3.
1 to 3.
Yeah. 2 means you're on track. If I say 1.9, that's an indication that you need to step it up a little bit. If I give you a 2.3 or 2.5, that means you're really on track. Well, so that's the way to judge those. And I don't add them up cumulatively. I track the trend of them. So don't worry if you start out with 1.5s and all. Just what I'm looking for is that by the end of the course, where have you ended up? So if you stay there the whole semester, that's something to worry about.
For every weekly journal we do, you want it to be written on the next week's chapter or the week before?
Doesn't matter. People are doing both, and that's okay. Yeah, what I want you to do is to connect communication experiences with the theories. So that's what I'm looking for. All right. So we've done 6 theories so far. Now, you're in comm studies, you're comm studies majors. How does this course fit into your whole program? What is the purpose of this course in terms of what you're trying to do in your whole comm studies career? Comm theory. What is that after? What are we doing? Anyone? All right, go ahead.
I mean, I'm just speaking
Go ahead.
on my own.
Yeah.
Okay. Opinion. I feel like it kind of provides like a backbone. I don't know, for some things, like something you can actually test.
Okay.
Or, view in light of science. It seems more scientific, even though you stated before it's more of a mix of
Yes.
some scientific theories
Okay.
as well as I forget the word you used.
Well, interpretations.
Interpretation.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, so comm theory is intended to give you some of the backbone of the field, because when you take interpersonal, you'll be looking at theories of interpersonal communication. When you take ORCOM, you'll be doing theories of ORCOM. So this is kind of a course that tries to get you to think about, well, what are these theories? Where do they come from? And how do you use them? So this is a core course in that sense, meant to give you a toolbox, we said, full of perspectives and ways to look at communication studies. So for instance, we looked at the spiral of silence theory. We've got 6 theories we've done so far. Griffin's book has 33. We're not going to do all 33 of those theories. So we looked at the spiral of silence theory. Now, what was that about? Somebody give me a feel for what that was about. What was the point of it? Go ahead, Jim.
The base of it was fear of isolation.
Okay, so it's a theory about public opinion that argues that at root of public opinion is a fear of people being isolated.
How people would fit into different groups.
Okay, and so what do you mean by how people fit in different groups?
Like, just when we were talking about group work, there's like the leader of the group, like kind of everyone takes their role.
Okay, well that'll be the second one. I think you're on to adaptive structuration theory. So this is important for us to look at, because each theory applies to some particular field. Spiral of silence is aimed at what level of comm studies? What is it, interpersonal? No, it's not. It's not really group either. It's kind of mass media, kind of broad scale communication. So some of you were kind of playing with it in interpersonal relationships or families. You were saying, oh, well, it's like spiral of silence in my family where we're afraid to talk about these things. Well, yes, that's true, but that's not what that theory is after. That's really a theory, a big scale theory. So for instance, I was looking at news today, and we're looking at the polling in Iowa. And any of you following the presidential political campaigns that are going on? We're coming up to the Iowa caucuses. Does anybody understand what that's about? Why are they important? What's going on? There's going to be a vote in Iowa among the Democrats and the Republicans towards who's going to be the candidate that the Republicans or the Democrats will put up. Right? And there's a whole bunch of people running against each other. Right? And so there's a poll that came out. It said this: Newsweek's latest polling in Iowa gives Senator Barack Obama a 28% to 24% edge over Democratic rival Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton. So they're saying, we did a survey, we did a study, and 28% of the likely voters said they'd vote for Obama, and 24% said they would vote for Hillary Clinton. Right, now, who's happy about these results and who's not happy about these results? That Newsweek is reporting this. Well, if you're a PR person, who are you working for, and are you happy or unhappy about that? Yeah. Well, if let's say you're an Obama PR person, you're going to be happy about this, right? Because they are giving people the impression that the swing is going towards Obama. And from your spiral of silence theory, you understand what happens when people start to get a feel for the swing of how things are going.
They shift their
They shut their mouths to opposite opinions. What's that?
They go with the flow.
They go with the flow. They start to go with the flow. So if all of a sudden there's these reports coming out, what's the spiral effect of the spiral of silence? Why do we call it a spiral of silence?
Because someone will read this and then mentally like take note that like he's in the lead or something.
Okay, so they'll take note that he's in the lead. They will talk less about, if they were a Clinton supporter, they'll talk less about it, which means then that other people get the impression that we don't talk about Clinton, we talk about Obama. So it builds. It's like a snowball. It's like something that feeds on itself, which is the spiral concept. So these results, 28 to 24, and Jonathan Edwards came in at 22%. Now, this article is very good because it goes into some analysis of this. So there's the headline, Obama 28, Hillary 24, Edwards 22. But if you read further into the article, you find out that the margin of error, sampling error, is plus or minus 7 percentage points. So what does that mean? So that these are the numbers you end up with. The margin of error in the sampling here is plus or minus 7 percentage points. Prudence?
Well, in reality, he could be a front runner or he could be behind Hillary.
Okay, so plus or minus 7 points, it could actually be 35 or it could be 21. Plus or minus 7 means could be 33, could be, what is that, 17? And it could be 15, and it could be 29. So when you see the headlines that say this, what does that mean? It's deceiving, and it's in favor of a spiral of silence on behalf of the front runner, because it gives the impression, but it could well be that he's at 21 and Jonathan Edwards is at 29. So who gets to write these headlines anyway? Whose interest is it to report it this way? What's another way you could report this?
Would it be unbiased?
Well,
Without using the numbers,
yeah.
you can say all candidates are about no more than 6% away from each other
Okay.
in difference.
So that sounds a little different. That all the candidates are within 6 points of each other.
Yeah.
Or you could say that statistically speaking, they're in a tie.
Yeah.
So from a statistical standpoint, you don't know anything here because it's all tightly within the ranges. So as a communication studies person, you're tuned in on this. You're saying, well, how come the headline is 28, 24, 22, and then you have to read down to where it says plus or minus 7 points, so it could be this. Why doesn't the headline say, all the candidates are in an equal standing? Well, it depends who gets to write the coverage for it. But you can see from a communication studies standpoint that whoever writes the coverage has a lot of power to shape the public discussion. Because depending on how they write it, they may activate the spiral of silence, which will shift a lot of things. Okay. All right, so example for that. All right, so we did spiral of silence. Then we did the adaptive structuration theory. Somebody give me the sense. Now this is, I think, what you're talking about, the adaptive structuration theory, which is a group level theory of communication. All right. Somebody need to go help her. Maybe. Go help her. All right.
Outside the class.
We're okay.
Focus on lecture.
All right, we're okay. All right. Glad you're okay. All right, adaptive structuration theory is a group level theory. You're in groups. You wonder questions about how does the structure of a group get established. All right, adaptive structuration theory is a way of thinking about explaining what goes on in groups. And what was the focus of that theory? Now you said about the roles that people take on, the roles, the resources that are available to people. So what goes on in an adaptive structuration? You remember, Letitia?
In adaptive structuration, if there was one person that was leading the group or one person that stepped up to be the leader, then the other people would kind of form in line to, revolving around that. Like for instance, if someone is quiet,
Right.
and other people are trying to get that person to talk, they may be like asking questions to try to get that person involved, but if they don't ask questions, they may forget about that person, and it may form like two separate groups.
Okay, let's go back. I mean, those were some of the things we talked about, but what was the issue in adaptive structuration? I want to get you to start to think about what's the core issue of each theory. Adaptive structuration, there's a question behind it. What? Do you have it, Lisa? Yeah.
Is it the fact that it plays a large role in shaping the public's opinion?
Well, okay, no, this is not a public opinion theory.
Oh, it's not?
No. See, this is where adaptive structuration is more of a group. It's a structure that explains how people behave in groups. The spiral of silence explains how people behave in broad society. All right.
Is that the group reproduces?
Yeah, so the issue is what accounts for group structure over time? So where does a group get its structure that persists over time? Who's got leadership, who doesn't have leadership, who behaves in what way in a group? How does that get set? And is there any possibility of it changing? Or should you just accept the fact that when you go into a work group, you get your first job, you get put in a work group, and it's lousy, you say, oh well, this is just the way it is, I can't do anything about it. Right, so adaptive structuration theory says that everybody participates in producing and reproducing the structure of the group. So the way everybody behaves and the way everybody relates to each other accounts for what the group will become. So you have some agency. This is the language of the theory. You have some agency or power to reshape the structure. You don't have all the agency, but you have some agency. And so you begin to behave different ways, and you watch what happens in the group. So this is built on Giddens' theories about social change, and it's Marshall Scott Poole's take on why do groups have a structure, and how does that structure change over time. So it's similar to spiral of silence in that you have people who are active, people who are quiet, but its goal was to see how, not how public opinion changes, but how group structure changes. Listen.
I know, I thought you were asking questions.
Okay. What was the answer to the question I was?
No, I thought that you were asking just if a new person comes to a group,
right,
then it's a constant change all the time.
Yes.
You know what I mean? A new person comes in and then eventually they adapt to the new person, and then there's the continuing process with someone else coming in and kind of working around the group. It's not you just conform to the group, but kind of everyone conforms to each other in a sense.
Yes, there's mutual, there's reciprocal or dual shaping, dual structuring. You affect them, they affect you. And so that's the way groups work. Which is different from having a very rigid idea about, oh, well, a group forms this way, and then it does this, and it does this, and it does this. Groups are in constant negotiation for their structures. Prudence?
What does reification refer to?
Reification is the idea that if you go in this situation, it's the idea that if you go into a group, you accept the fact that the way it is the way it's always that it has to be this way, that it's given, that this is the way this group will be. It's you treat it as natural, the natural way.
And unchangeable?
Yeah, usually if you think that this is just the way it is, you don't try to change it, or you don't think you can change it. Versus people who come into a group with an awareness of their own power, awareness of their agency, come into a group and they say, all right, this is the way it is now. It got this way because people behave in certain ways together, and I'll be part of it, and I'll behave in ways that make me fit in, but also change the structure at the same time. See, if you go in and you try to change it all at once, you'll get thrown out. And if you go in and just do nothing and conform, you'll get eaten up by the group. But if you go in and work with the group, but believe that the possibility of change can take place, then you can have agency or power.
So it's like a slow process of change.
Yes. Yeah, it has an idea of that change can take place as there's mutual influence between structure and people and going on with the group. Right, so what would you do with a theory like that? What good is it? Where do you encounter groups where you either try to change them too quickly or you don't even think you have any power? Where are some places that might happen for you?
Maybe like groups you form in class.
Okay. So you may be in work groups now. We're about 4 weeks into the semester. You're in some group and you're like, this group stinks. You know, I don't like it. So what does this theory say to you?
Well, you're trying to either change the dynamics of that group, or you would just go along with what's going on, just wait until it's over and you're trying to get through it.
Okay, the theory says to you by your behavior, whatever behavior you're doing is part of shaping why the structure is that way. So whatever you're doing in the group is part of keeping it the way it is. Right, so if you don't like it, look for ways to make a difference, because you can reshape it. Don't accept it as given. Right, where else might you encounter this?
Like friendships.
Okay, friendship groups.
Kind of like a boyfriend and his friend, something that's kind of like a group, but if you don't like the things that they do, it's kind of like, you can't change it, but like maybe you could slowly try and tell them like, you know, maybe do this differently or something like that.
Okay, yeah, so that if you realize that if people will behave differently in the system, in the structure, that the structure will adapt over time, right? But you do have to be careful about how the pace of change in those settings. All right, so what I'm trying to get at is that these are not dead theories. These are theories that are meant to do something where you're involved in communication settings. Spiral of Silence talks a big level about public opinion. Adaptive group structuration theory talks about the groups that you're in and having a sense that you don't have to just accept the way it is, but look at how you're influencing the system by your behaviors in it. Okay. All right, then we did 2 last week. We did the standpoint theory, and we did, what was the other one? We did the muted group theory. All right, now let's ask the question again. What was standpoint theory about? Why is it a communication theory? Standpoint theory said, let me get someone else.
Basically about other people's viewpoints and how from one perspective it seems obvious that that's the best way to do it, and from another person's point of view it's completely wrong. Like the school teacher couldn't understand why the woman would kill her daughters. He just completely didn't understand why she would do that, but from her mind that was the best way to handle the situation.
Okay, so now this is a hard question. What makes that a communication theory instead of a psychology theory?
Because it's about learning how to interact with people better, like to try and put yourself in their position and try to see their point of view as opposed to...
Okay, all right, so in our conversations with others, we are not likely to be understanding what's going on because of the issue of standpoints, because the experiences lead to a whole different worldview. And we talk about this as an interpretive theory of communication. All right, so standpoint theory. Go ahead.
Could I say not understanding others' different opinions?
Yeah, the issue with standpoint theory is that your behaviors and your communication will be unintelligible to me if I don't understand the background from which it comes. Right? So if I'm in intercultural communication or cross-gender, you know, it was a lot about feminism in the book, but we looked at the possibility that there are many standpoints that may be difficult for us to understand. Again, what would you do with this theory? Why do you care that you now have a standpoint theory of communication? Where's a setting where this would kick in and explain something and recommend a course of action to you? Where could you be in a setting where this would be important for you to be thinking about as a communication practitioner, organizational, as a PR person? Let me get some other folks. Go ahead.
Well, if you're in like PR and you're trying to pitch an idea to someone, if you know, like you might agree with what you're trying to tell them, but if they have different, viewpoint than you and a standpoint than you, then they're going to disagree with it. So it's good to know what they view on something before you do it.
Okay, so the PR people, it says, before you're pitching, work your best way to stand in the standpoint and understand what counts, what's important, how they're viewing the world in that particular. Anyone else have a thought about it? About organizational communication? You're in HR practice. You're doing something in that setting. What would you do with it?
It's important to understand when you're trying to communicate with someone from a different culture or different background, how to try to step and look how they're seeing an issue. Because if there's a problem in the workplace environment, you're not going to be able to understand where they're coming from and why they feel the way they do.
Okay.
They're trying to experience and trying to understand where they're coming from.
Okay. Yeah. So if we're in a workplace conflict, and it's not just two people from the same standpoint, but it's people from different standpoints, it's going to be a whole different question of trying to make the solution. Any of you been following the thing down in Louisiana, the Gina 6 issue? I don't know if you're reading up on that at all. I would suggest to you there's a standpoint theory issue going on here. The Gina 6, where it looks like a racial issue, where there was a fight in the school, and then there was 6 people beat up a person, and so people were arrested, there are charges, and it's being billed as a major case of civil rights and race relations and race problems down in Louisiana. A lot going on with it. And I was watching interviews with people there just yesterday. I was watching interviews with people, and the people are not understanding each other. You know, some of the white families are saying, well, this is the way it should be, this, and this. And then some of the African American families are going, yeah, but this is what's going on down here. It's not that simple. And they're like, yes, it is. It's very simple. And they're going, no, it's not. It's not very simple. And it's just a clear case of standpoint issues where people are not understanding the way the other person is perceiving the reality in their world. I'm going to talk about this under speech codes a little bit. All right, so we did standpoint, then we did muted group theory. So muted group theory, communication theory, what's this dealing with?
It's like how women's words and thoughts are like this habit in our society, and how the it's like a man-made language, and like the masculine control of communication places like women at a disadvantage.
Okay, they're at a disadvantage because you have a man-made language, and what is the issue then for women's experience?
Like, I think that they're just saying that women are like, I don't know, like they're afraid to like speak out over a guy.
Okay, I'm not so sure it was afraid, but yeah. but they are devalued. In this theory, it's the idea that a group of people, their communication is devalued.
Yeah.
And so you're on the track. We're just pushing a little further.
It's saying that women don't have a language to express their emotions or to express themselves in a situation because the language is male-dominated, so we don't have verbiage.
Right, so a woman's experience is different from a man's experience, but there's not necessarily language. You have available, a woman has available men's language to talk about her experience. So there's kind of two dimensions to it. Women's speech is devalued, and men's language is inadequate to give voice to women's experience. Right, so that in that theory, those are some things that are going on. All right, so what would you do with this? Let's think about what kind of a situation